What's up guys, Saf here on Super Saf TV, and in this video we're going to be looking at the key differences between the iPhone XR and the iPhone X from last year. So why are we doing this comparison? Well, the iPhone X, now that it's a year old, will be coming down in price if you can pick it up from a reseller or secondhand, and should be a similar price to the newly announced iPhone XR. So let's break down the differences. First up, the display. This is the biggest difference between the two. The iPhone XR has a slightly larger display, 6.1 inches versus 5.8 inches. But there is a big difference in terms of the technology behind these displays. The iPhone X actually has a much better display compared to the iPhone XR. Now, although we have small bezels on the iPhone XR, the bezels are not as small as what we've got on the iPhone X. And we've got LCD technology on the XR versus OLED technology on the X. Now, these actually make a big difference. Firstly, in terms of contrast ratio, you've got 1400 to 1 on the XR, and the X has 1 million to 1. So that just goes to show the difference in terms of contrast ratio. The XR has the same contrast ratio as what we had on the iPhone 8 Plus. And this essentially means that you're going to be getting much deeper blacks on the X as well as much more vibrant colors. You've also got 3D touch on the iPhone X. This is something that you've not got on the XR. Now, there is some haptic feedback, which is going to try to replicate the 3D touch functionality, but it's not going to be the same as what we've got on the X, where it's actually a pressure sensitive display. And the differences continue when it comes to the resolution. The iPhone X has a much higher resolution, Super Retina is what Apple call it. And in terms of pixel density, we're looking at around about 458. On the XR, we have a pretty low PPI pixel density, 326, which is the same as what we had on something like the iPhone 6 as well, which came out many years ago. So the iPhone XR just has a slightly more than 720p display. So on a 6.1 inch display, you are going to be noticing that things are not going to be anywhere near as sharp as you're going to have on the iPhone X. So as you can tell, the iPhone X display is much better compared to the iPhone XR. But we do have, of course, many other differences. The size difference, the iPhone X is smaller because of the smaller display, so it's definitely much more manageable in the hand. And it also weighs around about 20 grams less. Now, when it comes to the build and design, both are very similar. We do have a stainless steel frame on the iPhone X versus the aluminum or aluminium frame on the iPhone XR. But both of these are going to feel very premium because of the glass panels on the front and back. We do have stronger glass on the XR, Apple is saying. Now, how much stronger this is, I'm not sure. Apple haven't specified exactly what type of glass it is. Of course, on other devices, we have Gorilla Glass 5, etc. So we don't know exactly what glass this is, but it should be stronger on the iPhone XR. Both devices are IP67 water and dust resistant, so we've got the same IP rating on both. Now, on the XR, we do have lots more color options compared to the X. The X just comes in either space gray or silver. The iPhone XR comes in a red, yellow, blue, black, white, as well as a coral. So plenty of color choices here for the XR. Now, this isn't a huge deal because if you do want to customize the look of your iPhone, you can do that very easily with a skin from our channel sponsor Dbrand. Skins are now available for pre-order for the iPhone XR, the XS, as well as the XS Max. And of course, you can also pick up skins for the iPhone X and many other devices. I'm going to be leaving a link to them in the description below. Now, moving on to the internals, this is where the iPhone XR starts getting the advantages. So first up, we do have the Apple A12 Bionic chip versus the Apple A11 that we've got on the iPhone X. Now, Apple are saying that the A12 is going to give you up to 15% faster performance, up to 50% faster graphics, and up to 50% lower power usage. So this will be quite a big difference in terms of performance, especially going forward when you've had lots of updates and things, considering that the iPhone X is already a year old. So definitely something to bear in mind. You do have iOS 12 on both of these. The iOS 12 update should be rolled out from next week on the iPhone X. So you are going to be getting a similar software experience, although when it comes to app launch times and just general overall performance, the iPhone XR does get the advantage here. Now, for storage, you do get an additional storage option on the iPhone XR, 128 gigabytes. You only get the 64 and 256 options on the iPhone X. And let's talk about the cameras now. The iPhone X has a dual camera system, both 12 megapixels, both with optical image stabilization. We've got f1.8 as well as f2.4 for the optical zoom lens. And overall, it has been a very strong performer in my usage over the year. Now with the iPhone XR, it just has a single camera. This is 12 megapixels, it's optically stabilized, and it also has an f1.8 aperture. However, the sensor is larger compared to last year. It's the same sensor that we've got on the iPhone XS. That is for the primary camera. So although when it comes to optical zoom, you do have the advantage here on the iPhone X, the XR does get the edge when it comes to the primary camera. You also have Smart HDR, which is going to give you much better dynamic range on the XR. And both devices also have a portrait mode. So on the XR, even though it's got a single camera, you still do have a portrait mode, and you can adjust the blur after the fact. This is something that you can't do on the portrait mode of the iPhone X. Is this going to come in a software update? I doubt it, because it is something that's enabled thanks to the Apple A12 chip as far as I'm aware. Now, because you've got dual cameras, is that going to mean better edge detection on the iPhone X? This is something we're going to have to wait and see. And once we've got the retail version of the iPhone XR in hand, of course, we can do some super SAF style camera comparisons here on the channel. And if you want to see those first, then make sure you have subscribed and switch on notifications. And when it comes to video, we also have an advantage here on the iPhone XR. Both devices can film up to 4K at 60 frames a second, as well as 1080p slow motion at up to 240 frames a second. But on the iPhone XR, we do have extended dynamic range up to 30 frames a second. So if you are filming on the XR, you're going to be getting better dynamic range compared to the iPhone X. And you also have stereo audio recording finally on the iPhone XR. This is something that I criticized a lot